Hello, everybody, and welcome to a live post-game edition of the GW Basketball Insiders. David Korn here, joined by Leo Urku, who is courtside at LaSalle, who was there to see GW beat LaSalle 104-77. We're really happy to be here with you. We've been really enjoying these live post-game reactions when one of us is at the arena, and we're happy to do it again tonight and offer you some alternate programming to maybe some other people who are talking tonight. And if you'd rather listen to us, we're happy to have you. Liam, how are you, and what are your big takeaways from this game?
I am doing well. My big takeaways from this game are that was a dominant performance from GW offensively. In fact, like historically dominant. I was given some statistics after the game. It is the most points they have ever scored in a regulation Atlantic 10 game, 104. And it is the fourth time ever they have had a season where they hit 100 points three or more times, and the first since 1956. So clearly this GW team is historically good offensively. And, you know, I sort of feel bad. This LaSalle team had a lot of injuries, and GW could not stop GW. So I felt a little bit bad for them, but GW did what they needed to do.
Rafael Castro made his return to the floor after missing 6 games with a do you know what the official injury was for him? I know it was an ankle or a foot.
It was a foot injury.
Lower body foot injury. He had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. Luke Hunger was the leading scorer with his 4th straight 20-point game. He had 20 points and 7 rebounds. Trey Autry had an awesome game. 19 points, 16 points for John Arngerd, and Bubu Benjamin, who also made his return after missing a few games, joined them in double digits with 10 points. Really all-around dominant offensive performance from GW, even without Garrett Johnson. Liam, you have the latest on Johnson, right?
The latest on Johnson is that it's a minor injury. It's just one of those things that we sort of have talked about this on the show before. It's going to happen with Garrett Johnson. He's just going to be a little banged up. But it's a minor injury. I wouldn't expect it to be long. I think there's a pretty good chance he plays on Friday. I was not told definitively that he would or wouldn't, but it's sort of similar to it was load management is honestly how I would sort of describe it. Even if it was there was a particular injury that was not disclosed to me, but it's not a knee thing and it's not a hip thing, which are the two problems that he's had. So that's encouraging. I would expect to see him back, if not on Friday, then next week at St. Bon or home against St. Bonaventure.
And then Friday, you're referring to a big Friday 10 matchup on ESPN2 that GW has against Dayton, who is, I believe, still beating St. Louis right now as that game is going on. So St. Louis in a bit of a downward spiral in that edition of the Arch Baron Cup, but that's going to be a huge game, and I think that makes a lot of sense against a shorthanded LaSalle. If there's an opportunity to spell Johnson a bit and make sure he's 100% for Dayton, you know, knowing Castro's back, knowing Benjamin's back, and knowing you have a bit of that front court depth, I think that makes a lot of sense. So Rafael Castro, he came back today and he looked awesome. They did the double big lineup like we sort of suspected they would be doing. Him starting alongside Hunger, Castro playing at least more of the traditional 5-man on offense, and Castro spending a bit more time on the perimeter, but both of them spending plenty of time sort of down low together. I know earlier in the game there's this one feed from Hunger to Castro, both of them on the block, that I think was pretty cool. And if they develop a bit of that chemistry, could be a really unique weapon for GW to have. But Liam, from the obviously you were there, you were talking to people, you were at the press conferences. Let's hear what you thought about Castro's return.
He looked like, I didn't expect him to look this unbothered. Maybe unbothered is not the right word, but he looked good. He looked like himself. He didn't look like he was impacted by this injury. I think it really helps that they had that week off between the VCU game and tonight. And I think Chris Caputo mentioned that they sort of they didn't want to rush him back in. Even though it seemed like for the Mason game and even more so the VCU game, it seemed like he was maybe going to play going into those games, especially the VCU game. But I think it was the right decision to make sure that he was, you know, recovered enough from his injury. But he looked good. He was everywhere. I especially liked early. I think he impacted the game in a lot of non-scoring ways. So he sort of stuffed the stat sheet And yeah, I mean, if they can continue to get Hunger and Castro both playing this well, like, that's a problem for a lot of other A10 teams. Part of the reason was that they were able to have so much success tonight is because LaSalle was so shorthanded. And it just became clear at a certain point, like maybe even by halftime, a little bit after halftime, that like LaSalle just could not stop GW, especially because GW was hitting some three-pointers, which really opened up the offense for them.
But I'm not comparing the two, but I think just because a team's shorthanded doesn't guarantee victory. I mean, people were really hoping GW would pull something out against Dayton when GW played them earlier in the season, and Dayton was missing their two sort of their two most important bigs, and they handled GW. So shorthanded does not necessarily, that can throw different looks at teams, can surprise some things. So GW still had to go out there and make plays and play their style and get the win, which they certainly did. Talking about how shorthanded LaSalle was, you weren't there, but on the broadcast, they were just tearing it, not even tearing into, but the way they were talking about that walk-on who got a few minutes, I think Max Lapakis is his name, they were talking about him like he was a Make-A-Wish kid. And it was just, like, they're all D1 players. Like, they all, if you're in a spot where you need the walk-on minutes, like, that's tough, but every team's there at some point. And I don't know. It was just a very entertaining few minutes on the broadcast to hear them talk about that. But the next thing I want to talk about here is I just sort of want to go back to this Castro Hunger pairing. Like, do you really think this can work?
Yes. I'm not sure it can work against teams. I'm not sure it can work against teams with a better backcourt, like a much better backcourt than LaSalle. But I don't know. The thing that I noticed, especially early in the game, is that Hunger was still sort of getting those looks. He was still getting the volume of looks, and he was still, making a lot of shots.
Yeah. He did stat pad a bit at the end.
Oh, he totally stat padded, but I was like, I mean, come on, you kidding me? That's awesome. You got to stat pad when you can. A game like this, you only get a few chances to stat pad like this.
So you got the chance to speak to Chris Caputo after the game. What did you learn?
Honestly, he didn't really say anything groundbreaking. He reiterated that they're going to try and play Castro and Hunger together, and they want to try to continue to figure that out, especially as they're sort of ramping up towards the A10 tournament. I mentioned the Garrett Johnson stuff. We talked a little bit about the upcoming Dayton game.
You let him know I'd be there?
I think he won't miss you. Don't worry. They know you're gonna come. Yeah, he mentioned that they didn't have Latong in their last game, and also mentioned that how much GW turned the ball over. And he also was talking about how he thinks it's a good spot for the program to be in, having a meaningful game like this against a team like Dayton. There's going to be a lot of Dayton fans there. There's always Dayton fans everywhere they play. So I think it'll be a really good environment and a really good atmosphere. I'm looking forward, honestly, to sitting at home, drinking a few beers and watching it and doing a show with you after. So I think it'll be a good time. I also, of course, had to ask Chris Caputo about my statistic that I curated myself. That
was mentioned on the broadcast. You were not credited, but the Chris Caputo Pennsylvania woes have made it to Kale Beers.
So coming into tonight, Chris Caputo was 0-9 in Pennsylvania. He's now 1-9, obviously. I asked him about it, and I think it's safe to say that he was not very satisfied that I came up with this statistic. He thought it was not a big enough sample size, and mentioned how they've had so many close games and how St. Joe's has had a few good teams and all that stuff. It's like, listen,
they had that disgusting loss to Duquesne a few years ago. The one at the play.
Yeah, he mentioned that one where they fouled with no time left against the Duquesne team that ended up winning the league. So I was like, listen, I got bored one night. I put it in a spreadsheet. What do you want me to do?
The stat was begging for you to find it. What, like?
It really was. I still don't think that's my best stat. I think my best stat is maybe going on the using the the theme of the evening, the Donald Trump state stat, I think is my best. That's my favorite stat, personally.
But that you were a little wrong on that, so I don't think you can
I guess.
claim that as your best.
Yeah, I guess the Pennsylvania one will have to be.
I think my best stat, I need to dig this up, what the exacts were, but in 2022-23, when I was doing the radio broadcast for WRGW, ahead of the A10 tournament, I figured out that it was like if James Bishop and Brendan Adams combined for like 45 points, like GW won. And that was every game they won. And then every game they lost was when they didn't. And then in that first round loss to LaSalle, I think they had 44 combined points. And that's why they lost. Yeah. So I was very proud of myself for digging that up and having it turn out to be exactly right. Caputo talked a lot about Dayton then in this press conference. So it seems like I think that's notable because I think that means the program was sort of focused on that heading into that, but still didn't fall for the trap. And I'm not saying GW is necessarily good enough or has had a good enough season to really have trap games or something, but I do think that is relevant to see them be able to sort of balance that.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that this was a look-ahead spot by any means, and it's easy to say that after they won by, 30 points or something like that. But like, I don't know. It's not like they were like tracking the score of the Dayton game during the game. They're looking forward to the game. They know that it's their biggest game for the remainder of the regular season. But they also know that, they were 6-8 in the A10 coming into this game. They need to win all of these games, and that includes LaSalle away from home. That includes St. Bonaventure at home, and that includes at Loyola Chicago. 3 teams that on paper they should probably beat. So they were definitely aware that Dayton is coming up next, but I wouldn't say that they were looking ahead to it.
We have a final score. If you're listening to this on Wednesday morning or on Wednesday or later in the week, apologies, but Dayton and St. Louis just went final. Dayton wins 77-62. And St. Louis is I feel good about my take, saying I didn't think St. Louis was necessarily all that. And I think Dayton's going to be coming into the Smith Center feeling pretty good about how they're playing.
Yeah, they've been playing well recently. I really think that having Latong back opens things up for them. But there's another aspect that, like, I don't know. A lot of what they did defensively on GW really worked, and it was kind of led by their guards and forcing a lot of turnovers. And it seemed to sort of befuddle Rafael Castro. So maybe now that you have Hunger playing well and, it'll be a more traditional matchup, maybe that somehow favors GW. Maybe that's a crazy thing to say.
No, I mean, I think there is a sense of like them being maybe a little overconfident after a St. Louis game. I'm pretty sure Dayton will be favored. Lines aren't out yet, but I would assume Dayton would have a few points on that, even though they are going on the road. But I mean, yeah, Amal Latong had a great game against St. Louis. He had 26 and 10, 6-11 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. And then off the bench, Durkak had 14, and then Bennett, their great starting guard who's been around for a few years, had 17 points as well. So Dayton's guards are nothing to sneeze at either. And Bennett, Montgomery, Durkak off the bench, that's a pretty good group, as good as any in the Atlantic 10, I think. And so that's going to be a tall task, and it's going to be a great atmosphere for anyone who is going to be joining me in the building, and for others who are going to be watching on ESPN2, GW's second ESPN2 appearance of the season following their neutral site against Florida in December. Liam, I have a take that someone shared with me that I want to talk about that I think is very interesting. Henry Farnsworth, a new GW basketball fan who just got into the team this year and is loving it. He's wondering if Castro's injury that sort of allowed Luke Hunger to sort of turn into this and that gave him the opportunity, if it may actually be a sort of blessing in disguise for the Revs. What do you think about that take?
That was sort of, I mean, I'd have to go back and watch the exact video, exactly what he said, but that was alluded to or said in Chris Caputo's press conference. You're going to watch it. It's literally, we're standing in a hallway.
Was it a one-on-one?
No, it was not a one-on-one. So Riley Frayne was here from Mid-Major Madness. I invited him on the podcast.
Riley Frayne, friend of the program.
Yeah, no, he's been on the podcast before. He's actually headed back to New York tonight, which God bless him. Tuesday night,
Huge everywhere.
I know, it's crazy. It was really impressive. So he was a part of the press availability, I would call it, because we're literally in the back hallway of Glazer Arena here. But yeah, Chris Caputo mentioned that. I think Riley asked a question in a similar vein, and the short answer is kind of yes. Is that like it's sort of allowed us to see what Luke Hunger can do, and they played a little bit of the double big. He called them the Twin Towers, and they played a little bit of it before. They're definitely going to play a lot more of it now, and it's helpful that Luke Hunger has shown that he can score when needed to, and he can be a serious contributor. So certainly think it's a good thing that your backup center is playing well.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's a good thing, but I do think this is one of those situations, right, where when you sort of are no longer in at-large consideration, you have, I guess, some of that freedom to try things and to see what works and get right for conference play. And I think that's probably why they were so conservative with Castro's injury. They were so conservative with Bubu Benjamin. They were so conservative with Garrett Johnson today. And by doing that and not, having anyone play through anything and get you found a diamond in the rough with Luke Hunger and saw that what he can contribute. And so it's just interesting to see the way the dominoes fall, because I'm pretty sure, again, if GW beats St. Louis, right, and maybe they didn't have a few of these silly losses and really were like on the bubble, maybe Castro plays through whatever like stinger he had. Maybe he rushes back and Hunger doesn't have the chance to develop into this. Garrett Johnson, there's so many different permutations, butterfly effects, whatever you'd like to say about it. But I'm feeling pretty good about this. And I think over these next few games, especially with some softer opponents and sort of less of that pressure. I mean, I know there's still like technically a path to the double bye. I think we'll probably be getting a new one of those A10 tournament seeding probability charts. I think tomorrow. I think they come out on Wednesdays. I'll make sure to share that for anyone who's interested. But I think there's still a chance at a double bye, but I don't think that's necessarily what GW should be playing for. I think they should just be trying to, obviously you play for the wins and stuff, but I think the bigger priority should be getting used to this new lineup and making sure the team is in as good of a spot to win the games they have to play there, instead of just going all out for that 4 seed.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think the path to the 4 seed is a little tough. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I still think this team matches up really well with St. Louis.
Well, I think a lot of teams match up really well with St. Louis with the way they're playing. They are not looking that impressive. Well, speaking of, we have an updated A10 men's basketball tournament bracket with the standings as things currently stand right now. Would you like to hear it?
No, David. I would love to hear it. Hit me.
So GW would be a 9 seed if the season ended today, and they would play 8-seeded Fordham, which is crazy that Fordham's an 8 seed, but Magpio's done a great job there. Super winnable game. Then they would play number 1 St. Louis up next. Also pretty winnable with the way they've been looking. That would then set them up to face what would be either George Mason or St. Joe's on the other side of that. Are you really sweating out any of these?
I don't know. It's always going to be a tough game against George Mason, I think. But
all tournament games are tough. Chris Caputo has won 1 A10 tournament game in his career as a head coach.
Yeah. The last time GW won multiple games in the conference tournament was the year they won it? It was like 2007 or something like that. It was I gotta say,
every broadcast you watch, every away game broadcast, you see this a lot online on some Twitter discourses from other fan bases. Nobody wants to play GW in the tournament.
And it's because of Rafael Castro.
Yeah.
And if he's playing like he played tonight, they should be scared. And
GW is also making threes like crazy tonight. They shot 45% on 10 of 22. First half, they were shooting in like the 50% pretty much. I mean, not at the same volume, but at the same efficiency as LaSalle was making them in a very uncharacteristic first half.
I know. That was crazy to me. Like GW would have been up by 30 at the half if LaSalle
Yeah, that's
made
why
their normal amount of threes, which is like
that's why like the 10-point lead, I was like, you know what? When LaSalle's made like 9 threes after they were the 9th worst 3-point shooting team in the country heading into this game, and they were shooting like 9 of 16 in the first half. Like, that's ridiculous. And so, say the line, Liam. What happened in the second half?
Oh, water found its level. Yes. Let's go.
You can't. That is the type of chemistry that you only get from years of talking about GW basketball together.
Say the line. Yeah. The LaSalle 3-point shooting really surprised me. What I saw, especially early, they made their first 4 3-pointers. Something I saw from GW tonight that I loved was Trey Autry hit some shots early and got going and had a nice game, had a bit of a bounce back game. He hasn't been as great recently. I talked with Chris Caputo about this in the post-game media scrum. And he basically was like, he's a good enough player. You know, a game like that is coming. He's, generally consistent enough that after a few down games, he's going to have a game like this where he hits a few 3-pointers. And I saw you mention that he was driving to the basket, which I agree is something that really...
Well, he wasn't even really... He had 2 field goal attempts that weren't from 3, and they were both great. One of them wasn't really, like, sort of awesome acrobatically and one. But my point was he needs to do that more because it works. And when he's doing that, it opens him up from 3 because they have to respect the drive. And he's good at it. It's not like this is a situation... this is going to be a crazy, like, deep cut, right? I have a point to this. So, like, earlier today, I was playing NBA. I was playing 2K with one of my roommates, and we like to do this thing where we do like blacktop, and we choose like random teams where we pick players from. And I had to choose someone from like the 05-06 Grizzlies. Pretty slim pickings there.
Okay.
So I chose Mike Miller because I was like, you know what? Like, I'll just post him up in the corner, and he'll just rip threes. And he scored a few threes for me. That was great, but that's the kind of guy. He's not going to be driving to the rim at all. Trey Autry. Again, very different situations here, but again, it had a point. Trey Autry has the ability to do those drives, and he is more of a player than just a stand-in-the-corner shooter, catch-and-shoot guy. So I really hope that today, at least, maybe showed him or the coaching staff or wherever these decisions are coming from, that having an inside 2-point game is helpful, works, and can be incorporated into his play style.
Yeah. Can we talk about the fact that Rob Dockery looks like LeBron James every time he plays against GW?
You think he has a chip on his shoulder that he isn't on this team?
Maybe. I'm pretty sure GW...
Rob Dockery, DC native. I believe a friend of former Rev, Darren Buchanan Jr.
Well, they went to the same high school, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about... We probably offered him right out of high school, right? He ended up going to Texas A&M, so I'm sure GW was involved. But
yeah, GW offered him. He visited GW. I wonder if that's...
So you think maybe it's a situation where... this is all speculation here, we don't know, but maybe he wanted to come back to GW, come back to DC and go to GW in the portal, and that was not really an option, which is why he ended up at LaSalle?
Maybe. I don't know. It's a possibility.
Again, we don't know, but I'm saying like that could be motivating for someone to score a lot of points.
I don't remember GW there being reporting of GW having interest in him in the portal, but I could be wrong about that. So anyway, I mean, he's played really well.
I'll do some digging. Player. I'm curious about this. I'll have an answer for us after my visit to the Smith Center.
Okay, sounds good. Doing the hard hitting journalism. But he's a good
for
player.
Everyone wondering about if GW and Rob Dockery were at all connected during the 2025 college basketball offseason.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, like you said, if he was friends with Darren Buchanan, which they went to the same high school, doesn't, I guess, mean that they're super close. But if that's the case, and GW had just had their parting of ways with Darren Buchanan.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe that played a role in that too. Yeah. So either way, whatever it is, he's been killing. He's a GW killer. Is he on Justin Fernandez level yet?
The problem is LaSalle hasn't won either of the games he's played well in, and that's the thing with Justin.
It's exactly right. So no, Fernandez is, I think, 2-1.
That's right. Yep.
But in the loss, he didn't do much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have many more thoughts about this game. This is a weird place to play. And I know a lot of people have said
talk about Gola, yeah. Or Glazer, I should say.
Glazer.
Glazer. Was there sushi today?
No, there was that concession stand over in the one corner. It's not even open at all this year. For those of you who don't know, I came here with Abe, Rustine, and Scott Greeny. And we were under the impression that there was going to be sushi, and we were going to be able to get sushi at the Salle basketball game, which would have been the most hysterical thing ever. We went over to the concession stand where there was a sign that said sushi, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, we stopped selling that after like 5 games. No one was buying it." It's like, well, of course no one was buying it. Who the hell would buy sushi at a damn mid-major basketball game?
I think is that on par or still better than the fried shrimp that they sold at McDonough Arena during the Kenner League out of that like weird little kitchen?
Oh my God. That place 100%. Like there's a health code violation in there. Speaking of fried shrimp, I'm really contemplating whether to
go to Sid Booker's?
I might go to Sid Booker's. I went there before the game last time. I actually maybe would have had time before the game. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was pretty good. It took a little long, but maybe it's because they were just first opening, like for the day when I went before. But I'm really contemplating. So, I what I've had for dinner is like a soft pretzel and the butteriest popcorn in the A10. They have the butteriest popcorn in the A10 here. That's another thing.
That's awesome. Great endorsement for Glazer.
Yeah. Apparently.
Oh, it's a better place to watch a game than at Hagen, right? For the other A10 arena in Philly, because I think Hagen's pretty not great. I've been there a few times.
Yeah, I don't love Hagen. You're very much on top of things. There's parts about the layout here that are weird just because they flipped it 90 degrees when they redid it like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. But there's something about like it's small. I mean, if they could ever fill this place up, it would be great. But like, it was like a mausoleum in here in the second half. Like the energy was completely out of this place. Darius Nichols, I think, purposely got a technical foul, screaming at the referees to try and get something going for LaSalle. But at that point, they were down 20 or 25 points, and it's just a weird place to play. It's a nice place to watch a basketball game. I tweeted about this, but the dentist light up here directly above the media spot where the media sit is a little strange, but I like it. It's weird. It's a very weird place to watch a basketball game, but it's good. I think we need to embrace the weird.
So I have one more question. I didn't notice this on the broadcast. I don't think they released it, but was Sam Ebersold on the bench for GW today?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He was there. Yep.
Okay. He's I think the director of something like player development who received a technical foul against VCU that spurred like a 40-0 VCU run that
it was a lot to a little, that's for sure.
And so there was a lot of discourse about that after the game. I know I got some DMs from some people in the industry who were very surprised that happened. Yeah. And that you heard the analyst Steve Lapis, longtime Villanova head coach. On that broadcast, he said he had never seen that before, and that never happened on one of his staffs.
I think he basically said he wouldn't tolerate that on one of his staffs, which is
yes.
Which is
and
fair.
So again, not to draw more attention to it because I don't think it's that big of a story, but I was curious to see if he was back on there, if there's any sort of change in the people who were on the bench. Okay. We've been doing this for about 30 minutes, talking about GW's historic. You were talking about that earlier. Some history-making point scoring in this game against LaSalle. Big game against Dayton on Friday on ESPN2 at 7 p.m. Eastern at the Smith Center. Liam, any final takeaways from this game? Thoughts looking ahead to Dayton or anything else before we wrap this up? And people who are watching this can maybe turn their attention to something else. I'm sure there's some other good college basketball on, right? Like nothing more important that maybe a GW audience might be interested in.
Right. Yeah. And listen, if there is an audience, like, if you're watching this instead of the State of the Union.
Oh,
First of
that's
all,
what it was. I knew it was something. Yeah.
First of all, I hope we're a little more coherent. I heard he might be going for 3 hours tonight, so I think I could probably walk back to my house and he'd still be speaking.
Hey, I mean, we could go long.
just as a bit.
You haven't asked me about. You haven't asked me about the food I cooked during the snowstorm. I could go on and on for my cooking adventures about that.
Do you want me to ask you about that?
No, we don't need to talk about it. But you know what? If after this, Coastal and Georgia State are looking like they're in a great game, 71-64 with 3:45 left in the second half. That's on ESPN Plus. You can turn to that if you don't want to watch anything else.
The eyes of America will be on Coastal Carolina versus Georgia State. Also, Michigan's only up by 4 at halftime against Minnesota. Anyway.
That was too mainstream for the point I was trying.
Yeah, you wanted something a little more niche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't really have any more thoughts beyond that. It's a good win. They did what they needed to do. I was really encouraged to see. I had a feeling that maybe the first Rafael Castro game we got back, he would look a little rusty, or you would see some of the impacts of his injury. But I didn't see that tonight. I thought he looked good. He actually had a lot of family and friends here. There were a bunch of them behind the GW bench.
New Jersey native, probably an easier trip to LaSalle than it is to see a home game at GW.
Absolutely. So there's a bunch of people. They had the Rafael Castro jerseys on, and I really don't know how I should have asked one of them how they got them, because when GW was selling these jerseys, the whole thing was you're allowed to get a name on the back, but it can't be a player's name on the back. So maybe they made an exception for a family of players.
Well, I know there are GW jerseys available on DHgate, and you can customize them.
Maybe that's what they did.
I don't know if that's the case, but I know that when I was a student, at least, there were certain groups that got orders together to get DHgate jerseys in.
Yeah. All-time legendary personalized GW jersey, friend of the program, Cameron Mays, who bought a Joe Bamasiel jersey the 1 year he was at GW, and then after he transferred, he was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I guess he kept wearing it to games. So I just think that's a really funny.
It's a one-of-one item.
Oh yeah, I mean, who else is gonna have a GW Joe Bamasiel jersey? And it was like a throwback GW jersey.
Yeah, it was like the yellow one.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I mean, we've gone on for over 30 minutes. We'll be back on Friday night for some Friday 10 action. I think it should be a good game. And yeah, thank you guys for listening.
We might have some special guests join us on Friday. It's going to be a crowded media room. I know that the 3 Bidley guys are going to try to be at that game too.
Are they really? Nice.
Abe Rothstein, Scott Greeny are going to be there. We'll see who I can convince to ramble with us for a bit.
Listen, I'll give you the keys here. I would love to have.
You'll let me drive?
I'll let you, just like that.
David, take the wheel.
David, take the wheel. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you soon. And nice win for GW tonight.